Today on TimesCast, Colonel Qaddafi's forces try to take back eastern Libya, but rebels stand firm.
This is sort of a Keystone Cops kind of civil war unfolding around us.
A former Libyan Air Force pilot now fights for the rebels, leading an anti-aircraft artillery unit.
I didn't like to fight him, but I must fight him.
And a photographic essay on the lives of women in Bahrain.
The news today is that Colonel Muammar el-Qaddafi has launched his first offensive against the rebels holding the eastern part of the country. Colonel Qaddafi's forces try to make a move on a town of Al-Brega, which is an oil port about halfway up the coast. And the latest reports that we have are that despite the fact that they are a real army working for a real government, such as it is, they have been unable to take the town from the much more amateurish rebels who now hold the east. So we can only speculate as to how it is that they have now been able to repeatedly repel counterattacks by the Qaddafi forces. The Qaddafi forces say that what happens is whenever they come into engagement with the Libyan army, more and more the Libyan army defects, that rather than fire on their fellow Libyans, they come over to the other side in small numbers, but enough to make a difference. It's also probably true that the rebels are substantially better motivated at this point. The Libyan army has been in disrepair for some time. It's not really a fighting force. It's very balkanized. So as this rebellion edges closer and closer to being a two-sided civil war with each side firing at the other, we're looking at a situation where neither side is really super competent. This is sort of a little bit of a Keystone Cops kind of civil war unfolding around us.
In Benghazi, rebel forces prepare to defend and maintain control of Libya's second largest city.
This is David Botti reporting from Benghazi, Libya. On a stretch of Mediterranean coastline, a small anti-aircraft unit watches the skies around the clock. Reports from the West on Wednesday say forces loyal to President Muammar Gaddafi are now pushing in the direction of this rebel-controlled city, and the threat of airstrikes is ever present. Awad Suleiman Zubi, the unit's commander, is a retired Air Force pilot. 12 days ago, he put on a uniform again to help defend the city from Qaddafi's forces.
I didn't like to fight him, but I must fight him. I wish he stopped killing civilians, because those civilians are his people. It doesn't matter who rules Libya, but what matters is the Libyan national security must be in a safety side.
As a military man, Zubi says he has no fear of any violence that could await him, and he believes the city's defenses are strong. All around Benghazi, civilian volunteers now learn military skills as a rebel fighting force forms to protect the city. As the training continues, the United States and others discuss enforcing a no-fly zone over Libya and other military measures.
We are against foreign forces to enter our land and our sea and our sky.
And in Bahrain, protesters took to the streets for the 17th day. While news coverage focuses on the continuing demonstrations, rarely seen are the daily lives of the people. Before the unrest took hold of Bahrain, photographer Hazel Thompson documented the lives of 5 women there in 2007 and 2008.
My only agenda was to understand the women and understand daily life. It was so simple. But what's interesting is it became a little bit political. Enas is a very successful young business lady, just had finished university. When I was with her, was newly engaged, but also she's a very outspoken youth activist and has her own radio show. This lady, Seema, has started the first fashion house in Bahrain, studied in Milan. And then this lady, Farida, she has become one of the most successful doctors in the region and now looks after the king's horses. And so is very trusted by the government and the kingdom. The exhibition was touring the whole region. It went from country to country. Saudi and Bahrain chose to censor my work. They took out all the pictures that were clearly Shia visibly, because there are visual differences in the way the women pray. For example, when a Shia pray, they pray with a little bit of clay. And I think what upset me, they saw division in my work where I saw unity. When people look at Bahrain, they look at it through political eyes. We look at Gulf women, we see the hijab, we see religion, we see politics. A bit like how you see a mannequin, yeah? It's about the clothing. And when we look at women in Bahrain, often we just look at the clothing. We don't see the women behind the clothing. So for me, this is a very symbolic image.
Join us again tomorrow for TimesCast.